Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and good afternoon to all of our beloved viewers to the Voice of the Cape's YouTube page and Facebook page. My name is Amir Adams and it gives me great honor and privilege to be introducing our facilitator to continue the Voice of the Cape's Matric Revision Program series. And as a reminder, of course, this is the Voice of the Cape's annual Matric Revision session online. And this year, for 2024, for our Matric Revision Program, our proud sponsor is the Two Oceans Graduate Institute, where you can become an online, where you can rather become a teacher, primary school or a high school teacher online, and it is an accredited online platform whereby you'll be able to study in the privacy of your own home if you wish to further in that endeavor. If you'd like to find out more information, you may contact them on the number 021 829 7015, or you may visit their website www.togi.ac.za. Without further ado, it gives us great honor and pleasure to introduce our facilitator for today, none other than Ms. Ni-shaat Dastagir, who is an educator in English, and she will be going through content for English Home Language Paper 1. As a reminder, please, to all of the matriculants and all of the viewers out there, make sure you forward and you share this link with all of the students who are currently preparing for the NSC exams. Without further ado, we hand over to Mr. Dastagir to facilitate today's session, and this is of course dedicated to the subject English Paper 1. All yours, ma'am.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all our viewers and our listeners. I am Mrs. Ni-shaat Dastagir, and today I will be doing some revision for English Home Language Paper 1, which will be written on the 28th of October 2024, and is equal to 70 marks, and the duration of this paper is 2 hours. Okay. Okay. So learners should know by now that this paper consists of 3 sections, which is our section A, which is our comprehension, and it's equal to 30 marks. And then we have our section B, which is our question 2, and it's our summary, and it's equivalent to 10 marks. And then we have our section C, which is language structures and conventions, which is divided into 3, which is our question 3, is our advertising. Question 4 is our cartoon, and then question 5 is using language correctly. Okay, so what learners need to understand when it comes to this paper is that English Home Language Paper 1 tests our critical language awareness in general, or in the comprehension section. Okay, so it tests our critical language awareness, and that is our ability to comprehend certain texts. So the text is written with a particular intention. So you need to have an understanding of why the text is written. So who is the text written based on where the article is coming from. The third thing we need to remember is what is the writer's intention. Okay, so the tone that the text is written in, and what effect does the text have on the reader, or typically known also as the mood. So the text can be objective, which you'll have, that will highlight the positives and the negatives regarding a certain topic or subject, or it would be subjective or bias and approach, where it argues for a particular, in favor of a particular topic. So learners must understand whether the text is reflective, if it's discursive, argumentative, or informative. Okay. Okay, so the outcome of this lesson, right, is for learners to have a good understanding that all questions in paper 1 are manageable. Okay, learners should not feel intimidated by the instructional verbs. And as previously discussed, you need to refer to page 78 of the CAPS document, right? So that you have a good understanding of the instructional verbs. And these verbs are normally like the words explain, discuss, account for, elaborate, substantiate. So those are your instructional verbs, right? and you need to have a good understanding of that. Okay, so learners should be able to answer all the questions with confidence. Um, the paper is designed in a way where learners should be able to score at least 1 mark per question. Ideally, learners should not be getting less than 15 out of 30 for this section. Okay, so I'm going to just touch on understanding of the question levels. So we've been doing a lot of this in our classrooms, right? Where we understand the question, getting learners to understand first the instructional verbs and then also the question levels. So we have level 1 and 2, right? And this makes up about 40% of the question paper or of the comprehension section. So this is your literal questions. This is text-based questions, and it requires you to reorganize, right? The answer from the text. Okay, so an example is it's direct from the text. It's a general comprehension question that tests your understanding of the text itself. Okay, so generally, these questions are the first 4 2-mark questions, and it lends itself to rephrasing, what we'd also like to refer to as the point explanation technique. So what we do is they look for what you are saying and why it's saying, and you have to take evidence from the text, right? And basically just reorganize it to answer this type of question. So I have an example over here. So this example is explain. So you just have to tell me why the writer refers to the episode of Twilight Zone in paragraph 1. So this example that I'm using here is from the NSC exam paper 1 for the year 2021. Okay, and they will see the answer. So the answer comes directly from the text, but we have reorganized it or rephrased it. So the episode in Twilight Zone illustrates the extent to which people go in the pursuit of perfection. That is our point, and in an attempt to conform to society's norms, and that is what we refer to as the explanation. So you'll note that this question, this answer comes from the text, but it's just slightly rephrased. The second type of question that we have is our level 3. This is our inference question. It also makes up about 40% of the question paper, and this is the what and the why. And the example I'm using here comes from the NSC exam paper 1 for 2018. So the question is as follows: explain what the writer means by the young men and women seen lost in the designer clothes, dwarfed and dehumanized by their possessions, as if ownership has gone into reverse. So that is our question. Okay. Oh no, I think we seem to have, yeah, yeah. So you learners need to understand also that this is a vocabulary and comprehension type question, right? So the word means, right, in the question is a trigger word to guide your response. So you need to take note that rephrasing or explanation of particular words are required from the question. Okay. So I seem to have lost my question there. Okay, so the possessions seem to own the person, so that is what you are saying, who are dwarfed. The youth have become less human or dehumanized. Note that the words that are underlined, right, comes from the question. Okay, those are like the keywords. By the possessions, as ownership has been reversed. So there you have your what and you have your why. Okay, and you also have the vocab coming from the question in order to further explain or elaborate on your answer. Okay, here we have your level 4 and 5 questions, which I like to term the head and the heart question. So this is your evaluation of the text that you have read, and it also shows that you have appreciation. So here you have to apply the P method now. So it's point, evidence, and explain. Okay, so this question is also that question where they ask you to what extent text A and text B supports each other. So the example I'm using here is again from the NSC paper 1 for the year 2018. Learners are encouraged to please look up these question papers. Okay, so question is as follows: to what extent does text B support the title and paragraph 1 of text A? So you need to also motivate through your response or explain it. Okay, so here we have our answer. So text B portrays the manner in which our models are compromised by the created images of materialism. The opulent lifestyles of villains are seen as desirable. The headline of text A refers to the effect of a materialistic society. Moral decay erodes our humanity via the imagination, and it eats us from the inside out. So there you'll see there's reference to both the texts. Right? So learners need to say they need to refer to both the texts. Okay. So there we now link the two texts. Okay. So the positions idealized by the rich kids of Instagram are similar to the desired lifestyle in text B. In both texts, materialism is acceptable when it is glamorized. So there you have your link. So there you have reference to both texts. Then you have your link, and now you're going to elaborate or explain further. Both the writer and the cartoonist disapprove of our mindless acceptance of materialism. So there is your personal opinion coming through, which means evaluation and appreciation, your head and your heart. So there again, a note that you need to always refer to both the text, and you need to use words like similarly in the text in the same way. So you need to look for common aspects or messages or alternate ones. Only refer to the parts of the text specified in the question. And I can't stress this enough. So in language now, what we are doing is we are looking at your instructional verb, right? Then we're looking at your keywords, and then we're looking at your limitations. So your limitations is where you need to refer to. Okay, so here you'll see the question says, to what extent does text B support the title and paragraph 1? So the title and paragraph 1 would be your limitation. So where you need to go and find your answer, or what you need to refer to in order to answer the question effectively. Right? How to answer the questions effectively? So, in other words, always start with keywords of the question, right, or from the question, and this helps to guide your answer. Focus on the types of questions and required answers. Okay, so have a good understanding of what the question is actually asking you to do. So if it says comment on whatever, now understand what the word comment implies and what exactly you are commenting on and where you need to refer to. Okay, so revise past NEC exam papers and memos. um, so when I say revise them, I say first do or complete the question paper on your own before you go and look at the memo. Because very often learners are studying questions and answers, but there's no critical thought going on. And therefore, many learners seem to do poorly in the comprehension lately. So read your questions and answers carefully. Okay, so you have a good understanding of what you need to do. After you're done, ask yourself, does my answer make sense? And have I answered the question? Okay, so this is what you need to do. You need to make sure of that. And how do you make sure of that? You read your question, you read your answer, and you read your question again. Okay, just to ensure that you have answered the question effectively. And then always refer to the mark allocation as per question when answering. Right, so you can see exactly how you need to answer the question. So you know, like what, why, what, how. Okay, remember always what exactly are you saying. Okay, and then apply the Peels method specifically when answering the 3 to 4 mark questions. Okay, and then please be up to date with current affairs happening not only in our country or in your school, but also in the world. Okay, and a lot of learners don't seem to read the comprehension, and that is the most important thing. You need to actually read the comprehension. So what I suggest is that if learners feel that they want to take a little bit more time with the comprehension, is they can actually start with section B. Okay, so you can start with any section, right? Provided you you have numbered your answers correctly according to the question paper. Okay. So moving on to section B, and this is our summary. Okay, so your summary is your question 2, and it is equivalent to 10 marks. Okay, so a definition of a paragraph. So remember, you need to answer, right, this question, right, in a fluent paragraph. So you need to know that there is expansion of one main idea. You need to read your instructions very carefully, right? Do not include your own experiences or examples or explanations. And then you need to pay attention or adhere to the word count indicated in the question, which is 95 or 100% of the time 90 words. Okay. Exclude all examples, explanations, the figurative languages, write in a paragraph form. Okay, so what's happening now is that when our home language learners write in bullet point or point form, they no longer get or receive the language mark. Okay, so please, the summary is the easiest way to get your 10 marks. So make sure that you only take out the main ask to look at. Okay. So when we're marking the summary, I think it's very important that learners understand how their marks are being awarded. So when you're marking the summary, so mark allocation for summary, 7 points equals 7 marks, 1 mark per point per main point, and then 3 language marks for if you have 6 to 7 points or facts from the text, right? Provided it is in a fluent paragraph. If it is in bullet point and you have 7 facts or 7 points, the 7 points of facts is all that you are going to get or receive. Then, so there we'll see it again, the distribution of language marks when learner has not quoted verbatim. So 1 to 3 points equals 1 language mark, 4 to 5 points, 2 language marks, and then the 6 to 7 points equals 3 language marks. Okay. So language marks when learner has quoted verbatim. So you get, if you have 6 to 7 quotes, okay, you will also receive no language marks. If you have 1 to 5 quotes, you will only receive 1 language mark. Okay, so just a reminder what verbatim is. It simply means that learner has quoted directly from the text without changing a word or two. When you change a word or two, your summary is no longer um, deemed verbatim. Okay. So also what you need to understand is that you don't need to change the whole context of the sentence. You just, it's good for this section to understand the synonyms. Okay. Okay. Learners will not be penalized if the word count is not indicated or the word count is indicated incorrectly. Um, if the word count is exceeded, okay, the marker will only read up to the last sentence and the rest of the summary will be ignored or scrapped. So remember, you can have 86 words, 83 words, 85 words, but when you exceed 90 words, right, the rest of the words will be scrapped, and you don't want to put yourself at risk like that because hoe kan ek sê? Because what if your points or your summary points is at below that 90 word mark? So please stay safe and rather stick to the word count. Sometimes less is more. Summarize that summaries that are short but contain all the required main points will not be penalized and marked on merit according to the marking guidelines. Okay, so I'm using an example of a question, right? So text C provides insight into the you're reading. They will first give what you need to look at. So text C provides insight into the positive effects of stress. That's your statement or your point. Excuse me. So summarize in your own words the beneficial impact of stress on individuals, and that is your instruction. Your instruction will always be in bold. Okay. So note your summary should include 7 points. Your summary should not exceed 90 words. You must write in a fluent paragraph. So it's 7 points in a fluent paragraph. Okay. You are not required to include a title for your summary. Indicate your word count at the end of your summaries. Okay. Okay, so some of the common errors that learners do make when they answering the summary question is learners ignore the instruction to write a coherent paragraph. So please note, home language learners, if you are going to write in paragraph form, you will only receive your 7 marks and you won't receive any marks for language. Then learners tend to quote verbatim or repeat points. Okay, in order to avoid this, what you can do is when you receive your question paper, you could, I don't know how it's allowed at most schools, but highlight on the paper and maybe number your points and make sure that you do not repeat points or facts. Okay, learners tend to change the structure of the sentence, thus changing the meaning. What I advise my learners is always to refer back to the question. Right? So, in other words, just go one back quickly. Okay, yeah, you'll see the beneficial impact of stress on individuals. Okay, so then at the of the summary, you go look back at the keywords and you see if that is in line with what the keywords are asking you to look at. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to question 3, which is our section C, which falls under section C. And if you all understand now that question 3 or section C, sorry, contains 3 questions, which is our question 3, which is our advertisement, and question 4, which is our cartoon, and then question 5, which is that threaded language, using language correctly. Okay, so this is your language use and editing. Okay, so advertisement, the art, and what we like to call this, it is the art of persuading consumers to spend money they don't have on something they don't need. I think our business learners understand this better, okay, because they tend to fare a little bit better in the advertisement section of the question paper. Things you must understand when it comes to this section is know what product is being advertised, at whom is the advertisement aimed, so who is the target market, understand the importance of the tone. So the tone is the intentional use of images, lighting, sound, and written copy to create a specific tone or setting. So your examples of a tone would be upbeat, energetic, light-hearted, dreary, sad, helpful, scary. And this is determined by the body language and the background elements of the advertisement. So also have a good understanding of your layout. So what is the layout? What's the purpose of a good layout? Is to get people to read and understand a message. So each advertisement has a message, right? And this helps you to understand the message the design is conveying. Then also our font, which is also our typography, it tells the consumer what they are reading and why it is important to them. It adds value to your text, right? Meant to influence emotions and impressions. So your image here, it creates engagement, the art of using pictures as visual cues that describe a business. Okay. So understand your AIDA principle. Okay. So the AIDA principle is um, attention, right? And then surprise, attractive, and then your graphics and your title. Okay, so first you have to see the information. Is it relevant message? And the promise of reward or satisfaction, or raising a mystery. And then we have the desire that it's supposed to create. This is a need or an urgency to buy something. It's also the unique benefits that the ad. And then we also have a certain brand identity that is sorry, I'm losing my words. A certain brand identity, right? That the target market that is supposed to be is for a certain target market. And then we have your action. So you have to purchase, you have to order it, you have to subscribe, and you have to sort of buy into that. Okay, so who is our target market? So basically, who the preferred customer could be or would be, and they will have. I'll show you there how do advertisers do all of this. And then in order to reach a certain target market, advertisers will have a database for the following information of people in the country. So they'll have your occupation, location, etc., etc. Okay, so advertisers do definitely do their research. Okay. Next, you have to look at the graphics and the visuals. Graphics in advertising use visual elements to convey a message or promote a product. Okay. So, advertising is not necessarily always to sell a product. Okay. Advertising can also be used besides promoting, but also be used to spread awareness. Okay. So, to convey a certain message or to promote a product. Okay. It involves strategically using color, imagery, typography, and layout while considering customer needs to create compelling ads that bring in new customers and sales. So, what are logos? Okay, so advertisers use logos by convincing an audience of their argument using facts, logic, or reason. Right? The persuasive technique that aims to convince an audience by using logic and reason, also known as the logical appeal. It also shows off a brand's personality. So there we have some examples of logos. Your Yahoo, BMW, Google. Um, okay. So then we have our slogans. So the slogans are short phrases used in advertising campaigns to generate publicity and unify a company's marketing strategy. Phrases are used to attract attention to a distinctive product, feature, or reinforce a company's brand. A simple and memorable catchphrase that draws an audience to a particular brand or product. And then we'll have examples of slogans, right? Apple, think differently, and then like Ford, go further. Okay, what are your copy techniques? So you need to also understand the language use also when it comes to advertising, and that's what we refer to as the copy techniques. So the pun, okay, there will be a play on words, right? Maybe, and then we also have repetition. We have the alliteration, the assonance, the onomatopoeia, and then we have the hyperbole, which is a gross exaggeration of certain things. And then we have a rhetorical question, which is meant to make our learners think or our readers think about why this product would be viable for them to buy into or purchase. Okay, and then we also have jargon. So it's fact versus opinion. So the jargon is a certain language used in a certain profession. Okay, so marketing buzzwords. So that it creates when you hear something and it sort of sticks in your head, and that is a marketing strategy, right? For you to do more research on a certain particular particular brand, right? And then we also have a hard sell and a soft sell. So the hard sell is it needs to go now. So it's for today only, right? Think about those people from call centers that call us and they tell us no, but the offer is only valid for 1 hour or for only today. The offer is only valid for today. So that is a hard sell. It must go now. We have, and then we have a soft sell, and the soft sell is when you have to buy into something over. It's like a lifestyle. Okay, so when you think of a BMW driver, okay, it is an experience, right? It is a lifestyle that we buy into. Okay, okay. So there's certain common errors and misconceptions. So students struggle with understanding and defining the tone. Okay, so please go and research tone words. Okay, so candidates can't unpack how the illustrations convey the advertiser's message. Okay, so this is the instance where you need to go and look at old exam papers and the memo or the marking guidelines, right? Because there you can see what the marking guideline says and what you are saying in your answer. Then also, learners provide generalized answers about the visual layout rather than specifically focusing on the illustration. Okay, so don't generalize, be specific. Then, learners struggle with commenting on techniques used by the advertiser to influence the reader. So, a good way for you to start is to please to go back, right, and then look at some of the techniques or research the techniques used by the advertiser to influence the reader. How do they create the desire? How do they draw our attention or attract us? Okay, so think about those things, and that goes back to the AIDA principle. Okay, so learners can identify techniques but tend to ignore the influence the techniques have on the reader. So what is the reader meant to do with that information? How is the techniques that the advertiser use meant to influence us as readers? What must we do with that information? We can either go and look or research the product, or we can buy in and just go and buy into that specific product or brand. Okay. Some of suggestions for improvement. So learners need to read the questions carefully and respond to every aspect of the question. Okay. Learners tend to be vague in their approach to the question. Okay. So you can't give us generalize again. Be specific. Learn the advertising techniques and how to apply them in answering questions. Make connections, link the visual with and the written text. So, in other words, how does the written text support the visuals? Identify the key instruction words. Okay, so when they're asking you for something, look at what exactly they're asking from you, like the keywords, and then answer that. Okay. I like to tell my learners when we're reading anything in class, they need to either have a pen, a pencil, or a highlighter as we are reading, so that they can highlight important or key instructions. Okay, excuse me. Learn how to respond to the instruction verbs. Right, same as I said in the comprehension section. Look at what the instruction verb is answering you. By now, you should have a list of the instructional verbs, okay, or the question verbs. So know and understand what it means to. So just try to peruse it, right, and have an understanding of what to do with it. Okay. Provide complete answers for maximum marks. Guys, you cannot give a one word answer, right, for 2 marks. Okay, so you need to tell me what you are saying and why you are saying or how it makes sense. Provide and then compare and look at actual advertisements. I don't know how many of you still read a newspaper or a magazine, but that would actually help you with answering advertisements. So compare and look at actual advertisement. See how the AIDA principle is put into play when looking at the advertisement. Okay. The genre of English is to introduce and inculcate into learners a critical awareness of a variety of texts. Okay, so remember, English paper 1 tests our critical language awareness. The study of ads refines the skill of identifying the sorry. So the study of ads refines the skill of identifying the advertiser's purpose or intention. Okay. I'm sorry, I said frog stuck in my throat. Okay. So cartoons, what to remember. So question 4. So question 4. Sorry. So question 4 of paper 1 is our cartoons. So what do you need to remember when you're answering the cartoon? Know or understand how humor is created. You need to understand satire, often found, and where satire is often found on political cartoons. Satire presents the weakness of humanity and makes fun of its weaknesses. Okay, so that is what satire does. Then also understand sarcasm. So sarcasm is sometimes used as merely a synonym of irony, right? So sarcasm and irony is very closely linked, but the word has a more specific sense. So irony that is meant to mock or convey contempt. Okay, right? And then we have irony. Irony may begin as a compliment or a simple statement, but it conceals a sting in the remark. Okay. So then also now understand what a pun is. It's a joke exploiting the different possible meanings of a word or the fact that there are different meanings of a word. Okay, so pun is a play on words. Satire, it makes fun of the weakness of humanity, right? And then sarcasm, a synonym for irony, okay, but it has a more specific sense. Um, and then irony implies the opposite of what is apparently stated. And then a pun is a joke exploiting the different possible meanings of a word. So pun, I play on words. So you need to understand, okay, the difference between facial expressions and body language. Remember, this is visual literacy, right? So when you are studying visual literacy, you need to make reference to the facial expressions. You need to make reference to the body language, okay? So you need to describe what you see in the cartoon that leads you to a particular conclusion, right? Know the impact of the different speech bubbles as well. Okay. So then we have our techniques, we have our diction, we have our punctuation marks. So diction is basically the words that are being used in the cartoon. And then we have our punctuation marks, which is an exaggerated exclamation mark, a mixture of exaggerated punctuation marks would be the ellipsis, would be the question mark plus the exclamation mark. And then we have our figurative language, okay, what it means or what it could mean, right? And then we have to look at the body language, right? So you can't just tell me the body language shows that the that Garfield or I don't know what the guy's name is. I can't remember his name anymore now. Okay, but the body, you can't just say that the body language shows that he is upset. You need to tell me or describe to me what about the body language shows that he is perplexed, he is upset, he is angry, he is shocked. What about the body language? Then also the facial expressions. The facial expressions, you need to describe the facial expressions to me, to tell me, to show me, or to describe to me how the person in the cartoon is feeling. Okay. There we have our visual and verbal elements. So you need to understand what is happening in the cartoon, right? So you need to read and understand visual and the verbal clues, and you also need to understand speech bubbles or thought bubbles. Okay. So there we have an example of the different types of bubbles. So we have the speech bubble, that's our normal bubble. Then we have the thought bubble, which is little circles rising up. And then we have our whisper bubble, right, which is sort of, it's a broken bubble. And then we have our telephone bubble. You'll see the little, almost like a shock wave going through there. And then we have the shout bubble. And then we also have the typing bubble. Okay, so here we have an example of the verbal clues. Okay, so whatever is inside the speech or thought bubble, this includes the words being spoken, the punctuation marks, the sentence types, the font, all of those elements, right, are your verbal clues. There you'll see in the first frame, you'll see bonk, it's in bold with an exclamation mark. So they could ask you to comment on that verbal clue. Okay, so now you also, what are visual clues? So visual clues includes the setting, our facial expressions, our body languages, our speech bubbles, our onomatopoeia effects. Okay, so onomatopoeia is when you say the word, it almost makes the sound that um, that it is meant to make. Okay. Then we have our movement lines, right? Those little lines that are sort of either by the hands or at the feet or something. And then we also have our compositional details, including foregrounding, point of view, or line arrangements. And this also adds to the visual clues. And then we also have the out of box or the silhouette. So these are what we refer to as visual clues, and our learners need to have an understanding of it. Okay, so what are some of the techniques that are used for humor? So we have the wordplay, which is the pun, the literal misinterpretation, and then also the reversal of expectations or anticlimax. Okay, so there's a certain expectation, but then something else happens. Okay, then we also have our role reversal. So now we maybe I don't know if you ever watched the the series The Coconuts, right? And that is a good example of role reversals. And then also have hyperbole, okay, which is an exaggeration of something, of a certain body part. Then we have satire, use of humor as a tool to effectuate a certain message or to bring across a certain message. And then we have a parody, right? And this is a comedic commentary about work that requires an imitation of the work. Then we also have irony, right? And this can be verbal, situational, or unintended. Okay. Then we also have wit, okay? So wit, quick thinking on your feet, okay? And then we also have absurdity, so something that is beyond our imagination is now happening, okay? So also have the political cartoons, okay? And then your typical exam questions, okay? So the last question normally focus on the humor or the message, okay? Or the conclusion to conclude the cartoon. So example is this is the last frame an effective conclusion to the cartoon. So here you need to comment critically on how the visual and verbal aspects of frame so and so convey the cartoon's message, or comment on the change of facial expressions from maybe frame one to frame two. Okay, so these are your typical exam questions. So you need to have understanding of what the word comment critically, right? And you need to understand what the word effective means. Okay. Okay, okay, why is it not going further? Okay, so it looks like we've reached the end of our slides for today. So I just want to wish all our all of the best for the paper one on Monday. That is a 2 hour paper. Remember that it tests your critical language awareness. Make sure that you go and you go through the instructional verbs again. Make sure that you start your answer with keywords from the question to guide your answer. Make sure for the summary that you understand exactly what the keywords are and what exactly you need to answer, and exclude explanations or examples. For the advertisement, understand the AIDA principle, what your target, what your possible target markets would be. For the cartoon, understand the visual aspects needs to be referenced. And then also for question five. Okay, so question five is very vague. They can ask you any language aspect from grade one or throughout your schooling career, the 12 years of school career. So please make sure that you have a good understanding of language and how it is used. Refer to the cheat sheet. I can't stress that enough for the learners. So I want to wish all of our grade 12s all of the best for Monday's paper. May Allah grant you all knowledge and understanding and grant you beneficial knowledge. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think I'm done, Amir.
Wa alaikum salam wa
I'm
rahmatullah.
like
We say
officially
shukran,
done.
jazakallah khair. MashaAllah. We say shukran, jazakallah khair. By
That was a
Makasi. Thank you very much
very lot a link.
to Mr. Steve for so beautifully facilitating today's session.
Yeah.
And we thank Ma'am for
Yeah.
her time going through all the content of paper one. And without further ado, as a reminder to all of our beloved viewers on the Voice of the Cape's Facebook page and YouTube page, please ensure that you share this with all of those who are embarking upon the NSC exams, all of the matriculants, and we wish them well, as Mr. Dastagir had indicated. And from our side, this is one of the last sessions, inshallah, that we will be having. Of course, there will be a few more, and we ask the respective viewers to the Voice of the Cape's Facebook page and YouTube page to keep posted, as we are now, of course, coming closer and closer towards the end of the Matric Revision series. If you would like to find out more details pertaining to the previous sessions, then of course, you may go on the YouTube page and the Facebook page of the Voice of the Cape and watch all of the previous sessions where the various subjects are covered pertaining to how students should prepare for the NSC exams. Once again, on behalf of our side of the Voice of the Cape, we thank you, Mr. Dastagir, for your time, and we wish all of those who are going to be writing all of the very best. And this is the conclusion now, or has been the conclusion of preparation for English Paper 1. As a reminder, this is for the year 2024. Either a primary school teacher or a high school teacher by studying in the privacy of your own home. If you'd like to find out more information, you may visit their website for more details, and that is the website www.togi.ac.za, or you may call them on their phone number as well, inshallah. From our side, we'd like to say shukran to everyone. We wish you everything of the very best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.